Peace and love, family, and welcome back to another Sunday Hope and Healing session. From my heart to yours, I'm sending love out in your direction with the intention that it reaches you where you need it to reach you. And we're here today, as we are every Sunday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, to bring hope and healing. We share hope through different information that we might share, encouragement that we endeavor to offer, things that I found to be very useful in my own life that I want to share with other people in the event that it may be useful for you in your life in terms of things I've been fortunate to be able to overcome and so forth. And we also offer actual healing. We do that through a methodology of healing referred to as Transcending the Matrix, which is a holistic based approach to healing that addresses every aspect of a person's beingness, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, relationally, financially, physically, every aspect of a person's beingness. Okay. And so our focus for today, sometimes I'll talk a little bit more. Sometimes the focus is more on the healing. Today, the focus is more on the healing. And so I've been finding a lot of people that I've been interacting with or encountering or endeavoring to support in some type of uh, ministerial or spiritual capacity or healing capacity have been dealing with some heaviness. That's kind of a theme that I've seen. And so our focal point for today is offering spiritual healing to ease feelings of heaviness. Offering spiritual healing to ease feelings of heaviness. And a person might experience heaviness in terms of different life situations that you might have going on. Perhaps it's in terms of some things that you're seeing or witnessing as far as things that are taking place on a global scale, or maybe things that are taking place, a little bit closer to home in terms of your work life or in your neighborhood, your community. Maybe things that might be impacting you as far as your household life, things that are going on with you relationally with you. Greetings, Curly Conscious King. Sometimes offering care for someone else or for others can result in feelings of heaviness, or one's own health challenges might result in feelings of heaviness. There are a lot of things that can bring on feelings of heaviness for a person. And like I said earlier, it's kind of a common theme that I've seen lately in some people that I've been blessed to interact with. And so in praying on what our focal point would be for today's Sunday Hope and Healing session, this is what came up today: to offer healing for those who are dealing with feelings of heaviness, to help relieve or ease or alleviate some of those feelings of heaviness and bring more of a lightness. Okay. And so if you've been following the channel, you may know that I'm a minister and also a healer. And for those who are Christian, you may be familiar with the scripture where Jesus is quoted as saying that my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. For those who may not, and certainly there are many people that I interact with, minister to, and share the teachings of Transcending the Matrix with, who do not fall within the category of Christianity. However, one thing that is universally true, regardless of what a person's faith background might be, and even if they don't claim any religion at all, one thing that proves true over and over again that I've seen and upwards of, or moving in the direction of 25 years of doing this healing work, is that all sickness, all pain, all forms of dis-ease. Did you know that disease is really a compound word? Well, not really quite a compound word, but really speaks to dis-ease or lack of ease. And what we want to focus on today is helping to ease feelings of heaviness. But any form of pain, sickness, or dis-ease, no matter what it is, what the manifestation of it might be, okay, every bit of it is the result of a place where we have not fully welcomed in the light of God's love into a particular area of our lives or a particular aspect of our consciousness. Okay. All right. I'm going to make that as a blanket statement, and I have seen it to prove true. Now, whether you're a religious person or not, that's immaterial. Whether you have a spiritual focus or not, that's immaterial. The fact of the matter is that you are expressing through physicality, but you're doing so as a spiritual being. Okay. We're all spiritual beings. Our essence is spirit. Okay. Now, I'm not going to give a long lesson on that. There are plenty of Sunday Hope and Healing sessions where I talk about that a lot more. Today, we're here to focus on the actual healing in the context of helping to ease feelings of heaviness. And so that's what I want to put the focus on. Don't want to spend too much time talking. I'm sure there'll be some talking in the midst of doing the healing, but I want the focus to be on the healing. I want the focus to be on the healing. And so I want to share with you before we get started, if you know of somebody who's just dealing with some heaviness, got some stuff that's going on where they're feeling burdened or weighed down by having some difficulty in life, did you feel like this could be a blessing too? I certainly would like to invite you to share it with them. Whether you're sharing it with them, if you're watching on YouTube and you're sharing it with them via text, just share with them briefly why it is that you're sharing it with them, so they'll have a reason to click on it. Because otherwise, if you're not saying anything with it, they're probably not going to be interested in it. If you share it on Facebook, if you're watching on Facebook and share it there, again, please share why you feel like it would be useful for someone to check it out. Okay. All right. Now, with that said, I'm going to start with a prayer. And before I even do that, the topic for today is a spiritual healing to ease feelings of heaviness. We might experience feelings of mental and emotional heaviness. We might experience issues in our body. But at the root, every problem, I say this very intentionally. At the root, every problem is spiritual. At the root, every problem that we could ever have is spiritual. Okay. And so we're going to bring a spiritual solution to a spiritual problem that's manifesting in the earth realm, manifesting in the form of, in this case, feelings of heaviness. All right. And so I'm going to start with a prayer, and then we'll get into the healing. All right. So for all of you who choose to align yourself with this healing, I invite you to just breathe the light of God's love into your heart. Breathe the light of God's love into your heart. And as you exhale the light of God's love from your heart. So that love is all that you're breathing in and love is all that you're breathing out. The light of God's love is all you're breathing in. And the light of God's love is all that you're breathing out. The difference between you and somebody who's dead is that you're breathing, right? And in Hebrew, the word ruach means breath, it means wind, and it also means spirit. And so I want us to consciously inspire, be inspired. Inspire means to take in spirit. As we inhale, we're inspiring. As we breathe in, we're taking in spirit. And I want us to be consciously aware of that in this moment. And from this heart-centered and love-centered, spirit-centered place, we'll lift this prayer and begin the healing. God, I know you to be a healer. I know you to be the healer. And I'm thankful and deeply appreciative of the opportunity to be able to demonstrate you as a healer. On the behalf of, if you would, anyone, please state either your name or the name of someone that you want to stand in the gap for, whether silently or out loud. State that name at this time, if you would. On the behalf of each name that's been so stated, neutralizing the root cause of all feelings of heaviness and feeling weighed down by life in any way, from the point of the root cause in the entire energy field of every strand of DNA and every cell of each person's body who is aligning themselves with this healing and transmuting it into and replacing it with the pure love and divine light that brings in and of itself a feeling of lightness and peace and well-being, such that a profound experience of relief is experienced that even results in maybe feeling a bit tickled and deeply grateful. And I bear witness to the wholeness of each one of us who's participating in this healing on this date and in this time and space called now. Thank you, God. Thank you for this gift of your divine love. It is done. It is done. It is done. All right. So the only reason any of us feels any heaviness is because there's something that we're trying to carry. Something that we're trying to carry. And some of the things that we try to carry, we don't need to try to carry on our own. And we certainly don't need to try to get the ego to carry it for us. We get ourselves into trouble when we try to employ the ego to fulfill a task or a job that only God or spirit is equipped to handle. All right. And so I want to look at the multitudinous ways in which we try to edge God out and try to do things in our own power, in our own strength, instead of doing it from a God-centered space. Okay. So let that be transformed and purified through the power of God's pure love. And really it comes from a degree of a lack of trust that we try to do that. So we want to transmute that kind of distrustful part of ourselves to being able to truly trust God. Okay. To be able to truly trust in God with all of our beingness and in all of our ways and all of our thinking and our processing and our going about life. Okay. To trust in God to actually handle and take care of the things that are concerning us. Trusting that God is actually perfecting the things that concern us. And we don't have to do it from an ego-based perspective. We can do it from a faith-based perspective. That's not to say that we don't have a work to do or something that we're called to do or responsibility in situations. But I find that even in me trying to do the healing, it works a lot better when I move myself out of the way and let God show up uh, rather than my personality show up. Okay. All right. So let's look at what is it that causes us. Let's break down what is it that causes us to have blockages in terms of trusting God. Times where we had prayers that we lifted and the prayer wasn't answered the way that we wanted it to be answered. All right. But this isn't something that we've just experienced within our lifetime. That's something that's ancestral. Okay. So we're going to go back within our family lineage and address um, what could be considered as a spiritually traumatic event of, there's a thing called repetition trauma. If something happened over and over again and it creating a certain level of trauma, and then it kind of accumulates. So I want to deal with spiritual repetition trauma throughout our ancestral lineage. Okay, and let's go back. 58 generations. All right. For that that repetitive spiritual trauma of things not unfolding in the way that we think we wanted to, or unfolding in a way that we wouldn't, in our limited understanding, want it to unfold, and that creating that sense of distrust. So we want to go and clear that repetitive spiritual trauma throughout the family lineage going back 58 generations. And it's manifested in roughly 72 million ways. Okay. And by the way, don't get caught up in how large the number might be or anything like that. That's irrelevant. Just like with the computer, no matter how big the button, no matter how big the number is, once you hit the C button or the clear button, it's clear. Okay. All right. So we also want to deal with all cumulative effects of that repetitive spiritual trauma. Okay. In ways that it might show up. Let's also look at posterity in terms of future generations, in terms of clearing that up as well. All right. All right, there's a lot going on there. So let's see how many generations forward. Getting 79. So we're going to clear that. Throughout those 79 generations after us. Okay. And let's get into replacing that with a clear understanding. Even if we don't quite have the clear understanding, to be able to have a clear understanding that there is an understanding of that which we maybe yet do not see, that actually makes it all make sense and is unfolding in a loving and benevolent way. Even if we don't understand it consciously in the moment, to be able to internally grasp that there is a plan that is working itself out for our good, for our greater good. And we want to send that backwards throughout those previous generations and forward to the next generations, as addressed before. All right. Now, this isn't just an issue within our family lineage. It's also something that exists within the collective consciousness of humanity. So we want to help clear that out, so that we're not necessarily negatively infected, not just affected, but infected by the collective consciousness that has this distrust in God handling things, or distrust in God in general. All right. Another thing that contributes to that is learned distrust of people who supposedly represent God. All right, so this is a challenge. All right, so that's a form of what might be said a religious trauma. So we want to clear the religious trauma in terms of the collective consciousness of those who have a spiritual responsibility, or those who are looked up to spiritually as being representatives of God, or the carriers of spiritual insight and wisdom, falling short in their human egoic selves. All right. I want to also look at this idea of God being vengeful and cruel and seeking to exact punishment on those. Oh, I just realized. Oh, I had that. I don't see. Logo isn't showing up for some reason. There we are. Seeking to exact punishment on those who are disobedient. All right. And thus think that God is like egoic in nature. They wanted to clear that out. And also misguided teachings of well-meaning spiritual teachers, ministers, priests, rabbis, gurus, imams. We want to clear that out, or the negative effects connected with that. All right. Okay. Now let's bring in into subconscious awareness as well as conscious awareness, the ways that miracles have shown up in your life and the lives of others. Things that you didn't see how it would be possible to happen, but there was a love that manifested in miraculous ways that really transformed something in your life, or the life of someone that you care about, or the life of someone even that you know about, even if you don't care about them. All right. And so let's also bring into subconscious awareness, minimally subconscious awareness, because that's where it really makes a difference, but also into conscious awareness. The reality that God wants to carry every burden that you think you have. Okay. Want to infuse this into your subconscious reality. Okay. Throughout your auric field, and in every cell of in every cell of your body. Throughout your genes, chromosomes, and DNA. Your physical DNA as well as your spiritual DNA. Or I should have said it the opposite, your physical DNA as well as your spiritual DNA. Okay. And speaking of your spiritual DNA, actually before that, let's strengthen within you and awareness to your divine innocence. And by the way, it is only in your own divine innocence, awareness of your own divine innocence, that you can see the divine innocence in everyone else as well. Okay. Satan from the Hebrew, actually Satan, but there's a ha in front of that, which means the. So the Satan, or ha Satan, literally means the accuser. Okay. And so we talk about, in terms of transcending the matrix, this matrix of third dimensional beliefs of separation and limitation that lead us to dwell in a state of fear. Fear being an acronym for false evidence appearing real. And so there's the Satan, or Hasatan, is always trying to accuse, to hold guilty, or to put in a state of guiltiness yourself and your perception of all others, as well as all others' perception of you. Okay. And so we can either choose to contribute, we can either subconsciously choose to contribute to that, or we can consciously choose something different. Okay. All right. And so let's look at, see, this again comes back to ego. It all comes back to the same thing. There's a part of all of us that tries to edge God out. A way that we try to edge God out is by, there are a lot of ways that we do it, quite frankly. A key way that we try to edge God out is by pointing to the guilt of our brother and our sister in creation, as well as that of ourselves. Okay. And then we try to, again, employ the ego to do things that only God is capable of handling, or that only God is equipped to be able to successfully handle. All right. And so let's, and that comes from a certain level of arrogance. And I'm not saying that we're the arrogant ones, but that is a manifestation of the ego. Okay. All right. And let's replace that with a spiritual humility. Okay. Humility is real, authentic humility is always present is always in the presence of true, authentic confidence. The real confidence bears with it humility. Arrogance is insecurity disguised as confidence. Okay. So let's build within all of us a profound, confident humility in the power and the presence of God active and alive in your life, and desirous to handle and take care of all of your life situations and every burden that you could ever possibly have. Okay. The false evidence that appears real is that you have to do it by yourself. The real, the real truth is that there is a better way that's available. Okay. And to allow space within your heart, within your mind, and within your body of affairs for you to be truly spiritually guided in what it is that you're doing and how it is that you're going about what it is that you're doing. Because frankly, some of us are carrying burdens that we don't need to be carrying. Some of us are taking on things that we are intended to take on, but we're taking it on from an askewed mindset or perspective. Okay. And so to actually be able to, I don't know why I thought about this just now. My favorite science class was physics. I really appreciated physics. And one of the things that I learned about in physics is about how levers work. right? There are things that you could attempt to pick up that would be very hard for you to pick up on your own, like a car, for instance, if you have a flat tire. But a jack is a lever at work. And what it does is it makes the process a whole lot easier. You can carry something, or you can lift something, or you can elevate or move something that would be much too heavy for you to do on your own, or it makes the process a whole lot easier, at least. Okay. And so I don't physically have an ability within my muscular structure to lift up a car, but I have changed many a tire in my day. And I did that through the use of a jack, which was almost always a pretty short lever, let alone if I were to have a much longer one, that would make the process a lot easier. Well, God wants to serve in a way as like a spiritual lever in your life, okay? That actually can help you lift things that would be much heavier for you to try to lift on your own without the use of the right tool. My grandfather, Ernest John Thomason Jr., talked about how it was always best to have the right tool for the job. And so I want to strengthen us all to be able to have the right tools for whatever situation we find ourselves in. If I want to put it another way in this context, I would say how to be able to move and flow in God in the right way that is appropriate for whatever situation you find yourself in. Okay. All right, let's strengthen all of us for that. And for that to happen, it means that we've got to, I know there's maybe something we might feel a little resistance to. For this to happen, we might need to be able to release the reins, or release the control, or release our own power dynamics that we might want to engage in, and all the other stuff that lets the ego just run rampant in our minds and in our lives. Okay. So for this to happen, what makes that process a lot easier is for us to be like water and kind of flow, to be able to flow in the moment rather than be constricted in the process of trying to control the flow. All right. So let's look at actually the element of water. And I want to boost the element of water within us, within our psyche, within our consciousness, as it relates to being able to flow in God as the moment calls for in various life situations. That certainly will help us to be able to move a lot lighter. Okay. All right. Want to increase that by 89%. All right. Okay, wait a minute. Yeah, roughly 89%. Okay. Cass says this is definitely speaking to her. Yeah. You know, there are moments where I say, boy, I wonder if people are really getting the depth of what's being shared at this moment. And I'm not taking credit for it, by the way. Some of this, so much of this stuff comes up and comes out while I'm in the midst of doing this. You know, I'm sometimes just kind of awed by the stuff that happens to pour out of my mouth. Not that I'm taking credit for, but some of these things that you're experiencing new, sometimes things that are new revelations for me, even in the midst of me sharing. Okay. All righty. Glad this is hitting home for you too, Curly Conscious King. All right. And so let's look at I have a picture in my mind of the cover of a book called The Miseducation of the Negro by Carter G. Woodson, Dr. Carter G. Woodson, the second African American to get a PhD from Harvard University. And the cover of the book is a woman who has shackles on her mind, shackles on her head, and it's kind of suggesting shackles on her mind or shackles on her brain. Okay, so let's look at the ways where we might be spiritually. Ooh, this is a big one. I was going to go to mentally bound, but spiritually bound that's needing some attention. Ways where we've been spiritually bound. Okay. Ways that we've been spiritually bound without even knowing that we've been spiritually bound. All right, I want to address that. Ways that we've been spiritually bound while believing that we're free. That's key. All right. I remember seeing this experiment where they were fishing in an aquarium, and they put a clear glass in the aquarium and partitioned it off. And the fish would they would go and try to swim throughout the aquarium, but when they hit the glass, they couldn't go any further. Then they eventually removed the glass, but the fish still couldn't go any further. They were no longer physically bound. They were internally bound. Physically, they had the freedom to move, but internally, they didn't have that freedom. Okay, they had been programmed to be in bondage. Yes, Carter G. Woodson. Did I say a different name other than Carter G. Woodson? I don't know if I thought I said Carter G. Woodson's name, who also is the founder of Negro History Week, which has become Black History Month. Okay, so anyway, regardless of what your ethnicity is, I'm speaking to an idea of us being mentally bound. You know, you can maybe kind of see it, behind me, there's the Transcending the Matrix Level 1 manual. And on the bottom of every page in that manual, it says using the power of the heart to clear or to heal the problems of the mind. All of the problems that we have are in our mind. Now I'm pointing here, this isn't where the mind is. This is only where part of the mind is. This is where the brain is. But the mind exists within every cell of your body. Okay. All right. So let's set free. Let's spiritually set free every cell of your body. For every cell of your body to be spiritually set free, to no longer be bound, to be spiritually set free, to operate in the divine flow according to which it was created, and to be able to fulfill the purpose for which it was created. Every cell of your body has its own job, its own function, its own calling, if you will. And every single one of the cells of your body, which there are billions and trillions of them, every single one of them is to serve or to support the purpose of the greater good of your whole body. Okay. And if there's any sickness or disease going on in it, there's something that is hindering it from being able to do that. Okay. All right. And so let's look at ways in which the cells of your body may have been negatively programmed to believe false teachings, that have led the cells of your body to create a force field around them to no longer accept the what's coming from the master cell, the instructions that are coming from the master cell. Put a different way, we are all cells in the body of God. And the master, or God, the master cell, if you will, has a calling for all of us in all of our lives that bring well-being and express well-being for us, and that are designed to contribute to the well-being of the greater good or the greater body. Okay. Some of us operate as rogue selves and do our own thing, or try to do our own thing rather than operating in alignment with what's going to ultimately be most beneficial to us and most beneficial to everyone else as well. Okay. Truth is, you can't do harm to anybody without doing harm to yourself, and you can't do good for anyone without doing good for yourself. Okay. All right. And so let's infuse each and every one of your neurons and all of the brain cells with love and light and faith in God's goodness and desire to do and manifest good in your life. All right. And to also attract into your life righteous teachings. When I say righteous teachings, I'm not talking about like judgmentalism. I'm not talking about like being self-righteous or anything. Righteous is really, if you break it down, it's like right use. To be able to uh, take in teachings that will be able to help you use or utilize your faculties in a way that they were divinely designed. Okay, that's what I mean by that. Okay. None of us are called to stand in judgment of other people. Okay. But we are called to utilize the tools that we have rightly, including our mental and our spiritual faculties. Okay. All right. And so let's deal right now. Let's deal right now with infusing our subconscious mind with the memory of the experience of God's goodness radiating in our lives and lifting us up when we've fallen. Lifting us up when we've fallen. Directing us back to the path when we've gotten astray. And loving on us when we've felt most hurt. Okay. All right. Now I want to deal with and I know I kind of touched on this earlier, but I find myself circling back to it. I want to deal with the ways that we stand in judgment of other people, and the way that we, in our mind, via the perspective that we have of them, the way that we, in our minds, condemn them for how they choose to utilize their free will, or how they don't choose to utilize their free will in the way that we would want them to. Okay. And also let's alleviate comparisons. Comparisons that we use to hold other people against our standard, and expectations for other people to operate the way that we would operate. Okay. And create for ourselves healthy boundaries to flow in life in a way that really honors the divinity within us. Okay. Notice a boundary isn't something that you set up against someone else. It's something that you set up for yourself in terms of what you choose to welcome into your life. And I could also say, not just what you welcome into your life, what you welcome into your consciousness. I don't have the bracelet on now, but I usually have a bracelet on that talks about guarding your heart, because all the issues in your life flow from what's going on in your heart. Okay. So you don't want to in fact, let's address some of these emotional things right now, like bitterness. So let's transmute that bitterness from the point of the root cause into uh, genuine, authentic forgiveness. Ooh, we need to boost that genuine, authentic forgiveness. Into genuine, authentic forgiveness of that other and of oneself. Okay. All right. And also into acceptance that people are who and what they are. Okay. Being able to accept them for who and what they are. Just as you would want people to accept you for who and what you are. Okay. All righty. Let's address actually animosity. We want to purify that animosity through the power of God's pure love, transmuting that animosity into allowing people to be who they are and allowing yourself to be who you are and allowing yourself to establish healthy boundaries. Which establishing healthy boundaries isn't actually a self-righteous act. I used the term righteous earlier and in terms of rightly using your mind, rightly using the tools that have been given to you, as opposed to self-righteous being kind of having more of a connotation of being kind of judgmental of others, holding yourself above all others, seeing yourself as better than all others, which is a form of a spiritual arrogance. Again, arrogance is not confidence. It's insecurity masking as confidence. Okay. All right. And so let's strengthen our spiritual vision to be able to see beyond people's masks and to be able to see a deeper truth within them beyond how it is that they're appearing to us, beyond whatever the false evidence is that appears real before our eyes. Kind of like a disguise, if you will, that's kind of maybe not a disguise. Maybe you can look at it as areas where they've just been dirtied up by life and you can't see the original, perfect, pure them. Okay. But to be able to see beyond that, to be able to see beyond their fault and to be able to truly see what their actual genuine need is. To be able to see through the eyes of innocence, the purity in another soul. To be able to see through the eyes of innocence, the purity of you yourself as a soul. Okay. Now let's strengthen us all for deep self-forgiveness. For deep self-forgiveness that brings with it its own lightness. Because we've relieved ourselves of that which has been weighing us down. Okay. All right. Another thing that helps to ease the feelings of heaviness is strengthening our spiritual muscles. What are some things that help to strengthen our spiritual muscles? Intention regarding how it is that we choose to look at situations and how it is we choose to look at people. Okay. So one of the ways that we can do that is by asking ourselves, what is it that I'm not seeing rightly in this situation? You could ask yourself that, or you can do it in the form of a prayer asking God, what is it that, and genuinely, not just from a place of anger or frustration, but from a place of humility of really wanting the actual answer and an openness to receive whatever that actual answer is. So I want to strengthen us to be able um, work those spiritual muscles in a way that instead of having fatigue, um, we're able to have increased endurance. Okay. So I want to strengthen us to be able to have increased endurance so that the things that actually helps the things that were once heavy not feel heavy anymore. You know, when you're a 1-year-old, there are certain things that you couldn't lift that you could easily lift now because it's just no problem. That's just no weight to you. Similarly, there's a point where simple addition and subtraction are a little bit more difficult for you than they are now. You can do it, a lot more easily now. So I strengthen us to be able to manifest that in terms of our spiritual lives, to be spiritually strong, be fully equipped spiritually. Not that we have to, and I want to address the fear that means that we'll have heavy stuff that will keep coming that we'll have to lift. Not that. When I cancel that, purify that through the power of pure love, and replace it with receptivity and eyes to see the miracle working power of God active in your life with great frequency, such that you're programmed to have miracle mindedness. I like that. Miracle mindedness, to be able to see quite regularly and even expect the manifestation of miracles without necessarily needing to control how the miracle happens or even know how it's going to happen, but to again be in a space of being able to flow like water. I've shared some different stories on this platform and in classes about things that I did not have. It didn't even occur to me that such and such might occur in this particular way. So let's address like a non-attachment to the outcome and temper that with complete alignment with the unfolding of good. I want to strengthen all of us for complete alignment with the unfolding of good. All right. And now let's again go back to the heart. For our hearts to be light. For our hearts to be light as a feather. Okay. So let's address sense of guilt, shame, judgmentalism, desire to see other people suffer, particularly people who you hold as responsible for your suffering. Let's address that specifically. All right. Let's give that to God. Invite in the presence of the light of God's love in the place where you've been holding that in your heart. Okay. What are some other things? And if there's something that you've been holding in your heart, I encourage you to just drop it in the chat if you feel comfortable being that transparent. It might be a blessing to somebody else to see that as well. Okay. Some other things that we might hold in our heart sometimes that would create heaviness within our hearts. What about the comfort of being able to play the victim role? That sounds kind of oxymoronic, right? The comfort of being a victim. Does being a victim feel comfortable? We don't generally think of it that way. But it might be something that we felt familiar with, and we feel comfortable with that which is familiar to us. We feel uncomfortable sometimes to the things that are not familiar to us, even if the things that are familiar to us are not pleasant, and the things that are unfamiliar to us would be very pleasant. Okay. All right. So let's increase our comfortability with that with which we are not necessarily quite so familiar, that supports our highest and best good. All right. Okay. And let's remove all benefits, delete all benefits of playing the victim role, to where there's no longer a feeling of any benefit from it, whether it's people feeling sorry for us or anything else, where that is just no longer appealing or attractive to us. And whenever we feel ourselves beginning to play the victim role, we naturally switch, because we get the sense that no, this is not my jam. I don't want to be dealing with this. Okay. And so one cannot be dwell in a victim state and dwell in a victorious state at the same time. It's just not possible. Two things, it's a law of physics that two things cannot occupy the same place at the same time. All right. That isn't to mean that there's a lack of compassion for people going through different things. I wholeheartedly encourage all of us to be deeply compassionate towards those who've gone through difficult things. And simultaneously, I encourage all of us to lay down our victim stories and replace our own victim stories with victory stories. That hit strong. All right. So openness to victory stories, having your victory stories to be able to tell. Okay. All right. Well, it's 1:57 already. Let's get ready to close this out. I'm going to do a little prayer, and we'll get ready to close out the session. So God, we thank you so much for all that's come forth in this hope and healing session today, for this spiritual healing to ease the feelings of heaviness and replace it with feelings of lightness, of your light, your love, your joy, your peace, and all good things that you have designed for us. Thank you for the insights. Thank you for the transformation. Thank you for the love that you've made available to us on today, and for all of the ways that will manifest even going forward from today on within our own individual lives and collectively throughout our ancestral lineage and our posterity, throughout humanity as a whole. You have moved today, and for this I give great thanks. Ashe and Amen. All right, my beloveds. As always, it's been wonderful being here with you today. I'm deeply grateful that there are folks who are on the planet who take, their healing seriously. That it's important to you to be the best versions of yourselves that you can possibly be. That it's important to you to be spiritually free. That it's important to you to be the highest and best version of yourselves. I'm deeply thankful for that, and that you see fit to come and partake of what it is that we have to share in our efforts to contribute to that. If you are not already subscribed to the Matrix Healing channel on YouTube, it's Matrix Healing, one word. I certainly encourage you to do so. At any rate, as we continue to endeavor to enter into the sustainable state of supreme satisfaction, until we meet again, I bid you adieu with peace and love. and I'll catch you next time.